Good evening. Welcome again to Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports. And we're into Chapter 2 in 2021. Jandy, what kind of storylines we got going on tonight? We had a live game in Sioux Falls. Not so great. Washington took out Rapid City Central.
Yeah, but the plot thickens across the state is a lot of these classes, we're finding out things that we didn't know about. The character development is really getting interesting. 11 AA, we couldn't have said this last year, is the most exciting class in the state. It's been a lot of fun to follow these teams, especially the new teams in the class. T area dominating again tonight. Aberdeen Central dominating. Watertown, we get to see what they do tomorrow. We can get into it, but it's a very interesting story, Tom.
A lot of good games coming up on Saturday, but we got some highlights coming up from this Friday evening. We had a live game in North Dakota as well with West Fargo, Sheyenne, and West Fargo. We'll start with the North Dakota scores. Bismarck Century, the number one team in the big class, 11 AA this year, 66-0 tonight over Williston.
We wondered last week. We were a little surprised that Bismarck Century didn't dominate against Legacy, but got it back together this week.
Fargo Shanley gets to 2-0, 21-20 tonight against Bismarck. And Jody Norstedt's got all kinds of highlights coming up here in about 15 minutes when we get to him for the North Dakota stuff tonight. The Eagles over the Magicians, 26-20 is the final now. So Davies gets even at 1-1. And the live game we had in North Dakota tonight, Sheyenne over West Fargo in the West Fargo showdown. And Sheyenne is off to a 2-0 start. West Fargo evens out at 1-1. Bismarck St. Mary's got a field goal with 12 seconds left to beat Mandan tonight. So St. Mary's, the number one team in 11A in North Dakota, knocks off AA Mandan 20-17. The Sabres Bismarck Legacy over Dickinson tonight, 31-0. Bismarck Legacy gets even at 1-1 on the season. The Battle of Fargo goes to North over South tonight, 28-3. So the Spartans get to 2-0 with that win. Grand Forks Central and Red River, no report, I think is what that means. So Grand Forks Central was 1-0
24-6. Grand Forks Red River did take the win in that one. We just didn't get time to punch that in.
All right, Red River the win there. Wapaton over Watford City, 49-19. The Huskies get to 2-0. Jamestown, interesting as always, Blue Jays 49-8 tonight as they get to 2-0 as well. In 11B in North Dakota, Thompson gets to 2-1. Tommy's over Northern Cass tonight, 50-12. Hillsboro Central Valley beat Harvey-Wells County 28-26. Hillsboro Central Valley gets to 2-1. Langdon, Edmore Munich, a 16-6 was the late score there over Grafton. Bishop Ryan beat Lacs-Burlington 34-22. Kindred over Linton HMB 49-14. There we go, as Kindred gets to 2-1 on the season. Beulah is number one in 11B. They get to 3-0, 48-13 tonight over Hazen. Velva rolls up 67 in a shutout of Newtown. Velva gets to 3-0. Central Cass, Owen Wiersma, a couple of touchdowns. I don't know what Frosty Wisniewski did, but I want to know.
I know Owen Wiersma, a couple touchdowns and 156 yards on the ground. Big night for the Squirrels. Central
Cass is off to a 3-0 start. And in 9-man in North Dakota, Lemoore Litchfield Marion 54-0 tonight over Finley Sharon Hope Page. And 3-0 now for Lemoore Litch. Napoleon Gackle Streeter. Tucker Schneider, 5 touchdown passes for the Imperials as they win 36-6. They are 3-0 as well. And New Salem Almont 48-28 tonight over Central McLean. New Salem Almont gets to 3-0 on the young season, and South Border had a lead late against Hettinger Stratton, 26-8. South Dakota, Jandy, Tiger Bowl in Harrisburg on Saturday with O'Gorman in Harrisburg.
And then we got the Pickeskimin Classic with Jefferson taking on Brandon Valley. These are the 4 undefeated teams in the state's largest class. It'll be fun to see how this one shakes out tomorrow night.
Also on Saturday, Rapid City Stevens will play host to Sioux Falls Roosevelt. It was Washington tonight over Rapid City Central, 62-14 as the Warriors get well, even out at 1-1. Big first half there for Max Thompson as they go to 1-1 on the season. Highlights coming up from that one. Watertown and Lincoln will play as well on Saturday. Sturgis was at T area tonight. The Titans off to a 2-0 start. They beat Brookings last week. They had 450 yards rushing tonight, 6 touchdowns on the ground. We got some highlights coming up from that one. Aberdeen Central is 2-0 as the Golden Eagles get by Yankton 40-28 in the final there. We'll take a look at that. Pierre over Mitchell 35-20. Lincoln Keenholz 4 more touchdown passes tonight for the Governors.
Big night. He's got a couple of receivers. He had actually 3 different receivers who were over 70 yards, and I think Pierre is looking really good at this point in the season.
Govs get back to 1-1 after that loss to Harrisburg last week. Brookings all over Douglas as the Bobcats get their first win. Huron evens out at 1-1. Tigers over Spearfish tonight, 34-9. In 11A, highlights coming up between Canton and Tri-Valley. This one went back and forth and back and forth. Canton, the number 1 team in the class, as they win at 21-16. Sioux Falls Christian, interesting squad as well, Jandy, as they get to 2-0 tonight.
I think they might be a little better than we thought. I can't wait to check out the highlights and their quarterback, Tayton Snyder, who really blew up tonight.
Couple of 9-man finals. Howard over Canastota Freeman, 59-28. Got some highlights as well from this as Howard gets to 3-0. DeSmet, number 1 team in 9A, and they are off to a 3-0 start.
Another big game for DeSmet. They are rolling so far this season. Colt Wilkinson and company getting it done.
And Woolsey-Wessington rebounds. Lost that first game to DeSmet. Did not play last week, but they beat Coleman Egan this afternoon 50-6. And Lyman over Sully Buttes 44-6. What's going on in 9B with Sully Buttes and these teams?
Well, 9B, obviously we don't have it figured out. We started out the year with Harding County at number 1. They lost, Delson Rapids St. Mary. They lost. The second week, Harding County was number 1. They lost. Third week, Sully Buttes was number 1. They lost. Who's going to be number 1 next week? I predict it will be Gayville Volland.
You and your predictions. All right, you're right half the time, I think is what you said earlier today. All right, we'll get to Jody Norstedt in West Fargo here in a couple of minutes with the North Dakota highlights of the night, but let's start in South Dakota. We had a live game tonight at Howard Wood Field. Rapid City Central taking on Sioux Falls, Washington. Both teams looking for their first win of the year.
Yeah, trying to dust themselves off the mat. This was 2 teams that really wanted to get the first win and hadn't played each other in a couple of years. They didn't play last year.
Washington took care of business in the first half of this one. And again, the Warriors took that 17-14 loss to Sioux Falls Jefferson last week. But right down the field, opening drive, Blessing Tanai with his first touchdown of the game. They go to the big man, Candace Ledbetter with a 2-point conversion, and Washington off and running. Max Thompson was perfect in the first quarter of this game. He goes to Thomas Peterson for a touchdown. They had an interception, and then Blessing Tanai with his second score, and it was 22-0 after the first quarter. Second quarter here, Thompson to Tanai for another easy one. Thompson to Noah Robertson to make it 36-0. This was the highlight of the night for Rapid City Central. Jace Johnson goes 85 yards on a kickoff return, and it was 36-7. But the Warriors kept pouring it on. Patrick Osborne with a tip and a pick 6 to make it 48-7. Thompson added another short touchdown run here late in the first half. 55-7 at halftime. They went running clock in the third and fourth quarters. And Washington rolls. Ellie Walker was excited, as were the fans. And there's a couple second half highlights for Rapid City Central. Saylor with an interception there, but Jeremiah Oman with a touchdown, 62-7. Aiden Mason with the lone offensive touchdown of the game for Rapid City Central, but Washington rolls Jandy 62-14.
Yeah, they got it done. You mentioned Max Thompson having a perfect first quarter. Well, he played the first half with 16 of 17 for 255 yards and 3 touchdowns. And after the game, when I talked to him, he credited the offensive line.
They came out with fire. They came out right away. Normally we're slow, and when we start off slow, we get behind. Nothing we can do. The O-line came out today ready to fire, and everyone feeds off their energy. Everyone feeds off their energy what they do. Try to do the same thing. Keep trying to pound the ball. That's our main thing. If that doesn't work, we're going to air it out and spread them out.
Central's got a ways to go. Washington, I don't know. They were decent last week in the loss to Jefferson, and they're pretty solid at most positions.
When Max Thompson plays well and when Blessing Tanai runs like he did tonight with 97 yards in the first half, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat.
A couple of pretty good receivers. Defensively, they were good tonight, so Washington evens it out. They play O'Gorman coming up next week. Let's go to T area. Again, move up a class this year into 11A, taking on Sturgis. T coming off that win over Brookings last week, and they get it done again tonight. Kale Lundeen for the first score of the night, Jandy.
Yeah, Kale Lundeen didn't play much last year, came in as the starting quarterback this year. Didn't have to throw much, but he ran it in, and then Chase Van Tol with the long touchdown run right here, and quickly they're up 14-0. This is a very fast team, Tom.
14-zip, they get a field goal. There's Van Tol's second touchdown run. And they were off and rolling. Jackson Weber
this
come up with an interception. I mean, they just had everything rolling again tonight.
Jackson Weber, one of those fast guys I was talking about, did it on the offensive side, running the ball, also gets the pick as you see there. And this is an opportunistic defenseman, one of the best catches you're going to see. Clayton Sattler comes up with a big extension and a catch. Blocked punts, all three phases of the game. T dominated in this one and had no problem against the Scoopers. And you see touchdown again, Jackson Weber. 31-0 at that point, and they continued to pour it on. Even Cade Schenzel was playing running back when he's normally their receiver.
More speed there. Weber, another long touchdown run here. It's 44-0, and the final was 52-zip. So T area's come out, put 47 on Brookings, 52 more tonight. And Sturgis lost to Watertown last week. They're getting a taste of some of these new teams in 11AA. But T area looking very good in this class. And let's hear from the Titans after this.
I mean, I give all credit to my O-line. I mean, without them, I can't get any of those yards. So, yeah, coming into this game, we knew what we needed to do. And, I think we're really underrated coming into AA. And, I mean, we just wanted to establish the run game early, and I think that's what we did. So,
449 yards rushing, but I think he's right. They were maybe a little overlooked coming in.
Honestly, I had that same visit when I went to T before the season started, and they said, I think people might underestimate us a little bit. I underestimated them a little bit, but I didn't think they had one of their better teams from the last few years, but you see the speed on the field and the athleticism, and it's undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, 2-0 right now. We'll see how it goes, but T area off to a great start in their move up to 11AA. Let's go to 11A, Jandy. We got Millbank at 1-0, Sioux Falls Christian at 1-0, playing out at Bob Young Field, home of University of Sioux Falls. And both these teams just totally rolled last week, and Sioux Falls Christian putting it on them early. Tatum Schneider to Carter Van Dong for the first score of the game. And then here's Snyder getting loose for 75 yards.
He was electric. He made tons of runs up and down the field, and they threw the ball well, but he's a double threat as a runner, passer. He can do it all.
Isaiah Young sprint to the outside. And it wasn't a blowout, but the route was pretty much on at that point. Snyder again. I love the gray uniforms, by the way. Looks good out there. Sioux Falls Christian going to get to 2-0. Here's Snyder again. Busting half the field to go in. 32-6 is the final here, Jandy, as the Chargers get to 2-0.
I have to be honest, I thought this was going to be one of the best games of the week. Millbank with a ton of starters back from last year, but I think this Sioux Falls Christian team, they might be one of those surprise teams. I think they're a little better than I probably gave them credit for coming into the year. Tri-Valley
is up next, and Tri-Valley took on Canton tonight and took them all the way down to the wire. Another 11A matchup here. Canton and Tri-Valley both 1-0. Tri-Valley a close win last week against Dakota Valley, but defense early on, just a field goal in the opening quarter from Reese Smith. And then Jacob Vanderwoord for Canton. That dude is 6'8", 260 pounds, and he's got the grab. Canton goes in the lead 7-3. But third quarter, Jaden Simmonsma, not going to go all the way, but he's going to set up an Isaac McFarland touchdown, and Tri-Valley is going to take a 10-7 lead.
This game was a little bit sloppy. There were a couple big plays mixed in there, but for the most part, it was a defensive struggle. And getting through for a touchdown was a special treat for this Mustang team.
Still in the third here, a little reverse to Luke Richardson, who takes it 15 yards. Got to the corner there. and Canton goes on top 14-10. But after that extra point is good, go to the fourth quarter now. Tri-Valley goes back in front. McFarland again, 16-14, but some time left for Canton. About 5.5 minutes left. This is the go-ahead and the winning touchdown. Peyton Eben, 54 yards. And the Seahawks get a big fight from Tri-Valley, but 21-16 is the final. And Canton gets to 2-0.
This Tri-Valley team proved something last week with a nice win to start the season, and then to play right alongside of Canton for this game. I think they're going to be in the race this year. They've got a couple McFarlands who are doing a nice job, but Peyton Eben came through, and Josh Merkel was efficient throwing the ball. He's the new quarterback, 10 of 11, 75 yards, and a touchdown.
All right, let's go back to 11 AA. Yankton and Aberdeen Central. A little streaming action, Jandy, and Rugby Riken to Cody Oswald, and they connected a couple times.
Yeah, that tied it up 7-7, and there was a lot of scores, but there was 4 or 5 times I was watching during this game. It was snapped over Sam Rolfe's head, and he was still able to make a play out of it. This guy's a freak athlete. I think he's one of the best in 11 AA, and he showed it time and time again. This time, running 51 yards for the score, give him a 14-7 lead, and then 4th and 35, Tom. 4th and 35. He goes for the touchdown.
It was 4th and goal. They had to score there, so they did.
Jacob Merksbauer comes up with a 4th and goal from the 35. Unbelievable. More Cody Oswald.
21-7 Aberdeen Central at that point, but Riken back to Oswald. And then Yankton would get a Gavin Swanson touchdown to tie it at 21.
Yeah, this guy's a home run hitter. He's not going to, pound you, but when he gets an electric play, it's going to make things happen. And that tied it up at 21. I thought we were in for a doozy, but then it was pretty much time of possession for Aberdeen. The sophomore Austin Erickson ran one in for a touchdown, and then we had to include this last play because it was just a crazy catch, again by Jacob Merksbauer, who came up big time and time again in this game. Look at Sam Rolfes put one up. It's tipped. He catches it and then waltzes in, and they took command from there. Aberdeen stays undefeated, taking down Yankton 40-28, 2-0 for the Golden Eagles.
Golden Eagles, you see at Mitchell next week. Mitchell was at Pierre tonight in an 11 AA battle, and back to the stream, Jandy. And Pierre coming off that opening loss to Harrisburg, no shame in that. But Lincoln Keenholz was going to move. He came back, and Pierre is happy that he did because he was on fire tonight. Went to Matt Hansen for a touchdown, went to Cade Kaiser for a touchdown, and a couple of scores to Jack Merkwan for Keenholz tonight. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, he was throwing the ball all over the yard. Keenholz came up with 15-26 for 257 and 4 touchdowns. And he found his favorite target, Jack Merkwan, a couple of times for a score. They got out to a 35-7 lead on Mitchell tonight. Tucker Vilhauer with a late touchdown for the Colonels, but the final in this one is 35-20 as Pierre gets even at 101. So last week they gave up 50-plus points to Harrisburg. They really wanted to see an improvement defensively, and I was listening to the post-game show that Steve Steele does with KCCR, and he talked about how the defense did play better. He's going to watch the film and make sure he trusted his eyes, but he believes that they're back on track defensively. All right, 9-man battle, Canastota Freeman, number 2 in 9AA. Howard, number 2 in 9A. And Howard rolled up a bunch of points tonight, Jandy. You got the highlights. Yeah, second quarter, they're up 14-0. They're going to add to it Taylor Hoyer. He gets the pass to Jay Syfor, the SDSU recruit, who finds a way to pull it in. And then Canastota gets back on the board. Tage Ortman, he passed all over the field tonight. Finds Noah Kleinsaucer, 20-6. But then Taden Hoyer once again, big night for this quarterback, then up-and-comer in 9A, and he's one of the reasons I believe Howard's going to be really good. He takes the lead 27-6, and then John Calise follows his blocking, gets into the end zone for the touchdown, and they rolled up some points tonight, Tom. This Howard Tiger team was getting it done against a tough Canastota Freeman defense, and got it done. There's a look at Jay Syfor, the SDSU product, and he's getting into the offense more this year. Last year, he just snapped the ball a lot. This year, he's going to put some points on the board. But Ty Byer, the MVP offensively, 163 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. And Canastota didn't run the ball. They threw it all night. Tage Ortman, 272 yards through the air. I looked, and I think they had less than 10 yards rushing in this game.
Are you shocked that they're off to a 1-2 start? I mean, Howard's good.
No. I mean, you play Platte Geddes and Howard. I actually, I expected they'd probably be close or maybe not win those 2 games.
All right, Howard rolls out to a 3-0 start. In 9A as well, a little streamer from Wolsey-Wessington. This game played at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Wolsey-Wessington, the 9B champions last year, moving up a class. And what do we got here? Marty Goen with a couple of early touchdowns for Wolsey-Wessington.
Yeah. They've changed his role, and he's going to be running the ball a little bit more often now. They threw another quarterback in. They had Marty Goen at quarterback, but he runs it so well. They're going to feature him running the ball a little bit more. 113 yards and 3 touchdowns today. And Coleman Egan moved to 9A. They were 9B a couple of years ago. They're just not what they were a couple of years ago. And this Wolsey-Wessington team, after a week off, really got things together and piled it up on the Hawks.
Eric Klanchnik with a couple of touchdowns as well. 3 of them for Goen. 50-6 is the final as the Warbirds get even on the season at 1-1 now.
Have to mention Keegan Hyder, 20 tackles on the day. That's a big number for a guy who was all over the field. So Wolsey-Wessington back on track.
All right, Jandy, when we come back, we are going to get back up to West Fargo. Jody Norstead is back in the saddle again tonight. They had a live game with West Fargo Sheyenne and West Fargo tonight, so highlights of that one as well. They got highlights from 11 games
They're
coming
all
up,
over the place,
I believe. So when we come back, Sheyenne and the Packers and lots more coming. Jody Norstead coming up next.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports is presented by Farmers Union Insurance. Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports is presented by Avera Orthopedics and South Dakota State University.
Speaking of South Dakota State University, keeping one eye on the Jackrabbits and the Coyotes playing their opening games tonight. South Dakota State was leading Colorado State at halftime, and USD was leading Kansas late. Kansas came back and scored about a minute in that game, but college football getting going. And we got to get to the upper Dakota as Jody Norstead is settling in West Fargo. And Joe, this is awesome. We've got a North Dakota live high school game just about every weekend this fall now.
Yeah, we had 2 last week, and now we only had 1 this week, but it had enough luster building up to it. West Fargo and Sheyenne both ranked in the top 5 going into this one. It was Sheyenne just really showing out and doing a nice job. You see a bunch of the helmets over here. The Packers were involved in the big one here on our network. Bismarck and Shanley with a big game. We'll get to those highlights in a bit, but let's start with that rivalry game in West Fargo. We just brought it to you. Sheyenne, Grant Workentine passing to Josh Henricks. That was a big first down, and Henricks was the man of the hour, rumbled for probably around 100 yards. He gets taken down there. He wasn't taken down very often, though, in this one. Grant Workentine on the keeper, capitalizes, makes it 7-zip. And then Peyton Jancy looking downfield. How about that catch by Caden Zepeda? Good coverage, but he fits it into a tight window. Start of the second, Jancy gets picked off by Nick Renner. Renner would deliver it to the house. A big defensive touchdown, a big momentum swing in the game. 55 yards makes it 14-zip. Packers defense coming on after that, though. Jaden Gressrud takes a Mustang down in the backfield, and then it's Gressrud again with a huge hit on Workentine. Really impressed with Jaden in this game. Then towards the end of the half, Sheyenne tries to kick a field goal to go up 17-0. Instead, it's blocked by the Packers. Tanner 9. Boy, I wish I could have given him some oxygen to try to get that touchdown. Instead, it was 14-0 at the half, and things just got uglier and uglier as the game wore on for West Fargo. Just not deep enough, not big enough. Grant Workentine gets into the end zone. Then a little glimmer of hope here. Jancy to Carson Hegerly. Packers have been shut out in back-to-back games against Sheyenne. They're not going to get shut out in this one. Jancy over to Parker Nelson. Nelson behind a good block from Hegerly, the D1 prospect, and he's into the end zone. Makes it 21-7. But Cheyenne's going to salt this one away. Workentine running, gets hit. But Workentine was running, Caden Rahr was running, and this man, Josh Henricks, was the big bruiser of them all. Gets into the end zone, makes it 28-7, and the Mustangs win it. They win their 5th in a row in this series. Now own the advantage, 5-4 all time. Let's hear from the Mustangs afterward.
Yeah, just possession and having the ball for that long, like a 10-minute drive, wearing them down, running the ball, ground and pound. That's what we do. Just running hard. That's what I know. Just running hard.
Shanley unveiling its Walk of Champions into the stadium, taking on Bismarck after an interception here. It's going to be Caden Fish, back on the Sheyenne beat. Fisher to Cole Johnner for a touchdown. Bismarck goes up 7-0 early. Bismarck up 10-0 now. Shanley gets on the board. Aiden Devine. Tough guy running. How about that for a little flip in the end zone? Makes it 10-7. Bismarck gets the first possession of the second half. They drive down the field, and look at this guy getting into the end zone. Number 23, this is Ashton Molsoff. We're used to seeing Isaiah Hoos run loose, but this one goes down to the wire. Michael Rosberg, this is a 6-point lead for Bismarck. Not anymore. It's a tie game. Shanley tacks on the extra point to go up 21-20. They need this stop on 4th down against Bismarck. They make the tackle. Leininger makes the play. And how about that for Shanley? They come back from a big deficit. They're down 20-7, and they win it 21-20. Pair that with the shutout win over Davies last week, and the Deacons are a dandy at 2-0, and a big matchup looming at Sheyenne next week. Speaking of Davies, they were looking for redemption against Minot. Well, it didn't start good. Ty Kitchen for the Minot Magicians takes the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Magi pulling a rabbit out of the hat early. Davies responds, driving down the field. Elijah Hayes was laying the lumber last week against Shanley. Had some big hits. He gets into the end zone here for the first Davies score. Later, the Eagles buried in their own end zone. Try some trickery. Bad idea. Minot falls on it in the end zone for the touchdown, and now a 13-7 lead for the home team. To the second quarter we go. 3rd and 2. Eagles are threatening. Dylan Feldner. This guy's a pretty darn good running quarterback. Davies always seems to have a good running quarterback, whether it's Reed Hartness last year, going back to other guys. He fights his way in. Later in the second, Minot with no answer for that QB run. It looked like a replay. Feldner in again, makes it 20-13. The Magi made things interesting late, but Davies survives on the road for the 26-20 win. So advantage East, 2 games in a row. Shanley over Bismarck and Davies over Minot. Let's go to Legacy against Dickinson. Carl Henry running through the tunnel. We got to see him last week on Midco Sports. The junior running back running some more down the sideline. He's going to set up the Sabres for an opening drive field goal by senior kicker Jack Byberg. I think Henry's going to be pretty good. And here's Byberg knocking it through. Still in the first quarter, Henry's going to rip off another big run. And it's going to take a pair of Dickinson players to bring him down. This time the Sabres going to finish the drive in the end zone. Junior quarterback Logan Miller is going to run this one in. So they make a quarterback change from last week. Sabres out to a 10-0 start, but that's not the end of the first quarter. Legacy showing off some defensive flair here after a senior multi-sport athlete, Joey Bazalski, comes down with the deep interception. Turn around, Joey, no problem. He had a one-handed catch last week, and he makes a nice interception there. Legacy goes on to win this one in a big way. 31-0. Sabres improve to 1-1. They get Davies next week. Mandan against St. Mary's, another 11AA versus 11A matchup. First quarter, Nick Schumacher, he was so good last week. Looks left, goes back, corner of the end zone. Britt Senfner. The kick makes it 7-0 Saints with 3:06 left in the quarter. Next drive, Max Carlson for Mandan. Time to go deep. Carson Jablonski, do you hear me? Whew, that's a pretty catch, laying out for it. After switching ends, the Saints force the kick, and Sarah Burgum. How about that one from Sarah? 22 yards, it's good. Her kick makes it 7-3. Next possession, Braves march to the 1 on 4th down. Brendan Palmer puts Mandan up. Burgum's kick makes it 10-7 Braves. Mandan gets the ball back on an interception here, and then Carlson going big again. Landon Gerving, though, high points it for the pick for St. Mary's. But we're going to have interceptions on back-to-back plays. Saints driving late in the half. Brendan Palmer, the second pick for the Braves. Back and forth these two teams go. What a fight to the finish. But in the end, no surprise here. The boys in blue are able to get it done. St. Mary's playing up a class against Mandan, but they're the #1 team in 11A for a reason. Nick Schumacher, a game-winning field goal with 12 seconds left to get the win. How about this rivalry? North versus South. Always a fun one. Fourth quarter, it's 7-3 North. Spartans have the football. Danny Boutain loads up and rockets this one downfield. They did this a couple times last week. Nathaniel Friddle hauls it in 77 yards. Nobody to beat. North a 14-3. South trying to answer back. Just over 5 minutes to go. Hunter Van Rayden gets in the way of this pass attempt. Peter Haugo picks it off, and he's going to return this one all the way back to the 10-yard line. On that possession, Haugo's going to take the carry into the end zone to finish things off. How about Fargo North taking it to Fargo South a little bit in the rivalry of Fargo? Take a look at the scoreboard, 28-3. The Spartans dominate, looking really good against the Bruins. They're ranked 3rd, and they'll stay ahead of South. Red River Central, another rivalry. The Cushman Classic first quarter here between the Riders and the Central Knights. Gunnar Hiker takes the high snap, brings it up the middle, though, for the first touchdown of the game. Red River goes in front 10-0. Middle of the second, Central gives it to Jack Simmers, who punches it across the goal line. Cuts the lead down. 10-6 now, Red River. End of the third. Hikert is going to hand this one off to Logan Oxted, and watch Logan run. Running away from the Knights. 28 yards, makes it 17-6. Rough Riders cap it off with some more ground game. Garen Sattler gets the handoff, finds a hole, scores to secure the Rough Riders a big rivalry victory. The Cushman Classic trophies going back to the halls of Red River. A 24-6 victory for the Riders, who improved to 1-1. Let's go down a class to 11B. Hillsboro Central Valley hosting Harvey-Wells County. These are two really good teams. I have high expectations for both these squads. Opening drive, Carson Mertz, touchdown run. He did that a few times against Shiloh Christian in the opening week. He's a baller. Skip ahead to the second. Riley Olson, the quarterback for Hillsboro Central Valley, also the son of the head coach, Scott Olson. How about that for a juggling catch? Gannon Limke right in front of the camera, my young man. 14-6, Burrows. They led 14-12 at the half. Third quarter now, Harvey-Wells County driving. Isaac Freeze going to go to Keaton Keller across the middle. Touchdown. Hillsboro's lead cut down to 21-20. Next drive for Hillsboro Central Valley. Olson. Well, we knew he liked Limke on the one touchdown. Is he going to throw it to him again? Why, yes, sir. Look at this. Unbelievable catch. Great coverage. It doesn't matter. Somebody call the ambulance. Someone's in rough shape after that one. Limke makes it 28-20. Fourth quarter on 3rd and long. Harvey-Wells County not done yet. Freeze to Madden Thorson, one of the top prospects in the state, and he works his way into the end zone. It's 28-26. Under 2 to go, Harvey-Wells County with the ball with a chance to take the lead, but Freeze is going to get hit as he throws. You know how physical Hillsboro Central Valley is. Watch this pop. Boom. The ball flails into the air. It's picked off by Jace LeShook, and that does the trick. This one comes down to the wire, but Hillsboro Central Valley wins it 28-26. Both these teams now 2-1, but how about that for Hillsboro Central Valley, responding after losing in the opening week to Central Cass, has responded with a couple of big wins against Kindred and now Harvey-Wells County. Jace LeShook after the game.
We knew they were going to be a good team. You know, it's us and them competing for the regionship, and we know how good they were going to be. And I'm proud of how everybody worked tonight. And yeah, we got the win. It was great.
Let's go to Lacs-Burlington against Bishop Ryan. Another 11B matchup out west. Pick things up in the second. Home team, Lakers leading 22-20. Ryan looking to punch back. Little Wildcat offense. Zach Henderson takes a snap. Ball pops out. Curtis Sauer falls on it. Then the sprinklers go off. How about that in the middle of a drive? Game resumes. DLB goes to work. Caleb Riss takes a handoff, gets some tough yards, but the drive comes up empty. Bishop Ryan's Father Nelson warming up at halftime. Then a key play early in the third. DLB's Jake Schaefer takes a handoff. It pops out right into the hands of the Lions' Brett McKay, and now they're knocking on the door. Later in the drive, quarterback Jet Lundeen keeps it, darts for the end zone for 6. Let's take a look at the final score in this one. Bishop Ryan and DLB play a good one, but the Lions come out on top 34-22. A lot of studs in that matchup. Napoleon, Gackle, Streeter, and Kidder County are a 9-man game of the night. First quarter, Napoleon trying to score or trying to defend here, and this is always tough though when you go up against a man like Jacob. Oh, I forgot his last name. I know Jacob though. And that makes it 8-6 Napoleon. Then Tucker Schneider is going to throw it to Jackson Glad, who runs it all the way back from the 20 to the 20. Jacob Biegler, there you go. Shortly after Schneider finds Glatt in the end zone here. Glatt amazingly jumps and catches the ball one-handed. How about that? Maybe extra credit this week for a high school play of the week. Makes it 14-6 Napoleon Gackle Streeter. Kidder County tries to mount a comeback, but to no avail. Napoleon Gackle Streeter is 3-0. Tucker Schneider, look at those numbers. 352 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Tucker Schneider is like good for 5 touchdowns every night, I feel like, when I see his box score. So 3-0 for Napoleon Gackle Streeter. Beulah was able to dominate Hazen tonight. I am so sorry. We're having trouble sending highlights from Hazen from the Coal Bowl, but Beulah did win that game, and we'll try to get those highlights out on social media for you. But big win for them. Big win for Shanley against Bismarck. I think that's your big winner of the night. The Deacons taking care of the Demons and now setting up a big matchup with Sheyenne, a battle of unbeatens coming up next week, guys. That should be a lot of fun.
All right, Jody, we were just talking about Jace LeShook from Hillsboro there. He should be in a Motley Crue tribute band.
Take a look. Rewind it if you were watching.
I like the look. Anyway, yes, you are right, as West Fargo Sheyenne. Bismarck Century, we didn't see them tonight, but they roll. And are they still the #1 team? Are they still the team to beat?
Well, I mean, they had a tough time against Legacy last week. Not going to sugarcoat it. They scored all their points in the first quarter of that game, matter of fact. In Williston, that's a tough one to gauge. Williston's just not a program that's going to be able to compete year after year with Century, Bismarck High, and those top schools out east. So I think we'll learn more about Century as the season kind of wears on a little bit. I think they get West Fargo next week, which should be really interesting. West Fargo taking a loss tonight, but Jay Gibson always has a good team. We'll see if he has them built to maybe pull off an upset against the Patriots next week. It'll be tough, though. Patriots just keep winning, guys.
I think Legacy's pretty decent, too, because they had a big win tonight, too. And I think that shows more about what Legacy did last week against Century than anything else. But that's just me sitting here.
They'll be just fine. They'll be just fine.
All right, some post-game stuff coming up in a bit, Jody. All right, we'll get back to you here in a minute, and when we come back, we will hear from some of the coaches here in South Dakota as well. Ryan Evans after the win for Sioux Falls, Washington tonight. Coming up, we'll hear from T-Area after their win. Some zone coverage next.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports is presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
Welcome back. Time for some zone coverage, a little more post-game from the coaches from tonight's ball games. Let's bring back Jody Norstedt and get a little more North Dakota reaction tonight, Jody.
Yeah, I brought up a couple more helmets too, guys, because give props to Jamestown. They won 49-8 tonight over Turtle Mountain. They're breaking in a new turf over there on the campus of University of Jamestown. And they even, when they gave me the helmet, they gave me my football number on there.
How were you number 57, by the way?
He's the center.
I was the center.
What?
Yeah, can you believe that? 160 pounds.
No, I've seen. Yeah, I believe it.
A lot of cut blocking. And then Central Cass, I got to give them some love. 26-6 tonight over Sargent County. Central Cass is 3-0. They've been having one heck of a year. Tommy Butler's doing a nice job. Kindred beat Linton HMB, a really good Linton HMB team that won the 9-man title last year, 49-14. We've talked about some of these scores. Wahpeton is 2-0. They beat Watford City tonight, and Century, of course, putting a licking on Wilson, 66-0. But the game that we had on, West Fargo and Sheyenne. Sheyenne has now won 5 straight in this series. They won tonight 28-7. It was really just, it was not pretty football. It was rather boring, but they just kept handing it off and getting yards, and that's kind of the style that Jeremy Newton likes, and it led him to a win against the rival tonight.
You know, the kids came off the ball hard, and we played a great team game tonight, I thought, on both sides of the ball. Any win on this field is a great win. They got they're a good team, well coached, and any win here is awesome. We took a big step tonight, but we also can't rest on it, because it doesn't get any easier with Shanley coming in town next week. So that's it's going to be tough.
And boy, that really does set the table, guys. Shanley and Sheyenne next week is going to be a lot of fun because Michael Rosberg is playing really well at quarterback right now for Shanley in his first year as a starter, taking over for Cooper Mattern, who is a tremendous quarterback in his own right. Aiden Devine is rolling, and that Shanley defense is looking a lot better than they have been in the past. They slowed down Isaiah Hoos enough tonight to get that win. So Shanley, Sheyenne, your matchup of the week next week, that one should be really, really good. And we'll have Bismarck on next week against Minot too.
All right, I was going to quiz you on that, but Bismarck Minot is our North Dakota Live game next.
Locked in. Unless
Friday.
I'm wrong, I am locked in. But yes, Bismarck against Minot.
All right.
Putting together a feature on Isaiah Hoos, who started as a Holstein, by the way, for New Salem Almont, and then transitioned to a Bismarck Demon, and he's been pretty darn good for them.
Yeah, he's impressive. All right, appreciate it, Jody. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see you next week.
I got a shout out or two.
Harriet Selby.
Harriet Selby getting it done against Timberlake tonight. Brendan Begeman, 4 touchdowns and a pick. He's been impressive. Madison, I think, has a chance to move up in the rankings in 11A. They got it done against Dakota Valley. That was a big win for them. And then we've got some interesting games tomorrow night, too. But I have to mention Chester, who is now still undefeated, took out Viborg Hurley, and now they play Howard next week. And I think Chester's a team you're going to be seeing on the show coming very shortly.
Who was the other 9-man team you were telling me about a half hour ago that you think is one of the best teams around?
Well, was it Gayville-Vallon?
Yes.
Yeah, Gayville-Vallon. I think they're going to be #1 in 9B next week because that keeps a revolving door. They got a win tonight against Alcester-Hudson. They've started out the year undefeated. I think Avon is another team in 9B who got a nice win against Del St. Mary tonight. So who knows in 9B? That's the biggest mystery of this book so far.
All right, let's get to a little more post-game. Tonight from Washington, Sioux Falls, Washington, with its first win of the season. They beat Rapid City Central tonight 62-14.
Yeah, and Ryan Evans afterward. It's hard to tell how good of a win that is when you get off to such a great start, but he was impressed with the way his team played early.
Yeah, it was great to see the kids come out and just start fast. We've been preaching that for a year now, and it finally came to fruition tonight. The offensive line was doing phenomenal. They were moving people when we were running the ball, and they were protecting when we were passing the ball. Max got very limited hits on him, and he made great decisions, and our offensive line did wonderful.
55-7 at halftime, and Max Thompson, 3 touchdown passes in that first half. Washington O'Gorman coming up next week.
Yeah, that'll be the big test for them, is to see if they can continue to take that step up. I think they're very even teams. I think Roosevelt, O'Gorman, Washington, maybe even Stevens. We'll see if they're in that group. Lincoln might be in that group. There's a big group right in the middle there. And tomorrow night we'll see if Jefferson and Brandon Valley are in that middle group or maybe the elite group. I don't know.
All right, Rapid City Central gets Douglas coming up next week. T area is the most intriguing team in football right now in South Dakota.
I have to say, I've been talking to a lot of coaches around, and some of them are like, I don't know, T's might struggle in 11AA. This maybe isn't one of the best teams they've had over the last few years. But I went to the camp, and they were just great leadership, positive attitude, and I'll tell you what, the speed on this team is absolutely breathtaking.
They got the same skill players they had last year when they won.
Yeah, they have a different quarterback. Different quarterback,
okay.
Yeah. But you're right. They run the ball. They just find some new guys to run the ball for them, and it's been working so far.
T area 52-0 tonight over Sturgis. They had 449 yards rushing, 6 rushing touchdowns. So T is 2-0. And here's Coach Clayberg after tonight's win.
I tell you what, Sturgis came out and played hard, took away some things that we wanted to do early. So we threw the ball a little bit, and then it kind of opened up the run. And, our guys played well up front. I think we blocked well. Jackson had a good game running the ball. I think Kale played well. Overall, just everybody, offensively and defensively, I think played a good game.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say, Chase Van Tol had a good game. Cade Schenzel had a good game. Cale Lundeen, who didn't play because of injury last year, has stepped up at quarterback and has been efficient. Like you said, they took away some things and they passed the ball to get out of that, and then they got back into their running game. T-Area
takes on Huron in Huron next week. We'll see what happens there. But T-Area is right at home in this class, taking on Pierre and Brookings and all these teams in that class.
They were tied with Yankton at number 1 coming into the week, and I think they broke that tie, especially with what Aberdeen Central did up north. And we'll still see what Watertown does. But I think Aberdeen Central, Watertown, T have been those 3 impressive teams in AA. And then Pierre, if they wouldn't have opened up against Harrisburg, I think Pierre belongs right in that group.
Harrisburg, solid number 1 in the big schools in South Dakota. They host O'Gorman tomorrow night in the Tiger Bowl.
I will say, though, I talked to Jacob Knuth earlier in the year, and we were talking about some of the contenders in 11 AAA, and he's like, don't forget about O'Gorman. And he was the first guy who brought that up, and I think he's right. I think they're a sneaky good team this year. O'Gorman's got some big defensive ends. I mean, they always downplay how big their line is, but some really good D ends. They block really well up front. I think they're a team to watch. Bennett Dannenbring's going to be a good quarterback.
Harrisburg's pretty good, though.
But they're pretty good.
Looked pretty good in their opening win over Pierre anyway. And then Jefferson, Sioux Falls Jefferson got their first win last week against Washington. Jefferson is at Brandon Valley on Saturday night.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I think Brandon Valley comes home after a week of being on the road and trying to put things together with a new quarterback and a couple other new positions, 2 new running backs. They come back this week, and I think they are going to be gritty for Garrow once again playing at home. But a huge challenge to try to stop Griffin Wilde and Talon Ashley, 2 of the most electric players I've seen in a long time, suiting up for the green and gold.
All right, and then Roosevelt is at Stevens Saturday. Watertown is at Sioux Falls Lincoln on Saturday. Really good games.
A lot of good games still on Saturdays.
11 AAA coming up on Saturday afternoon and evening. We will wrap it up with the rundown when we come back on Varsity Sports Live.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports is presented by Avera Orthopedics and South Dakota State University.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Final thought on week 3 in South Dakota.
I think we're learning a lot. There's going to be a couple new number 1s. We'll have a new one in 9B. We'll have a tie in 11 AA. And I think we're pretty set on a couple of them, like Winter and Harrisburg, but a lot more to be discovered this year.
All right, here is the rundown as we say good evening. We will see you next Friday night on Varsity Sports Live.
Young and the Young touchdown for the Tigers.